What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kramer, and in this video, I want to share with you the biggest mistakes and failures I've had in my real estate journey thus far. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So don't get me wrong, I think sharing the wins is way more fun and way more exciting. But to be fully transparent with you, real estate is not all rainbows and unicorns. So in this video, I want to peel back the curtain and share some of the biggest failures and mistakes that I've made on my journey thus far. So mistake number one was partnering with the wrong people. When I first got started in real estate, I partnered with a guy, and I'm not going to name his name, but we ended up partnering on 6 properties together. And the deals actually were pretty decent, some better than others. And honestly, I learned a ton from it. So there was a lot of upside that I got from this partnership. But the bad side is that he ended up doing some really sketchy stuff towards the end of our partnership. And maybe even some things earlier in our partnership that I didn't know were red flags because I was brand new and like 20 years old at the time. But towards the end of the partnership, there were a lot of red flags that started to be raised, such as him not wanting to file taxes for the property, him not paying contractors properly. And then I found out that he was previously arrested and in jail for a handful of years for scamming people in a previous business he was involved with. So in hindsight, it sounds so obvious, like, Bailey, how did you not know he had all this stuff in the past? And honestly, I didn't know. Like I mentioned, I was 20 years old. I never did much background research on the guy. And we are also part of the same mastermind group. And unfortunately, he tricked basically everyone else in that group, thinking that he was like this great guy and all this knowledge and experience. And everyone, including myself, got completely fooled into falling into this guy's scams. So luckily, I was able to sell the 6 properties that I owned with him and got out clean. But I could probably talk for hours and hours about the crazy stuff that happened from that partnership. All right, now moving on to failure number 2. So my second biggest mistake or failure was not estimating renovation costs properly. There were several deals that I did in the beginning, and yes, it was with this previous partner that I'm no longer affiliated with, but we completely underestimated the renovation costs, which caused us to have to do a lot of the work manually. And I remember one specific situation on my first ever property. We were behind on budget, so we had to step in and do some of the manual work ourselves. And I remember I was responsible for installing the insulation into the wall. So I had this big mask on and I was putting all the insulation in. And I remember the inspector came the next day to make sure that the insulation was installed correctly. And I just remember him looking at it and giving me this look like, dude, you did not do this right at all. So it was actually a good lesson because the inspector literally taught me how to do it properly. And then he said, hey, I'll be back tomorrow. This better be done or else I'm booked out for the next couple of days. I won't be able to come back for a couple of days. So it was going to really delay us. But luckily, the inspector taught me how to do some of the work myself. So I was able to do it and we actually passed the inspection, which was kind of cool. So one theme too is I've taken all my failures and mistakes and turn them into positives. So like this one, for example, I had to do a lot of physical work myself because we were over budget, but I learned something from it. So it all worked out in the end. All right, now big mistake number 3. So this one actually happened about a year ago from today. And essentially what happened was I found a property that was for sale and it needed a bunch of work. So I bought it for $65,000 and I had to put about $35,000 into it to renovate the property. So I needed about $100,000 to complete this project. I used a private money lender, someone that I knew previously, and they lent me the $100,000 to buy the property and renovate it. And the plan was, once that was done, I'd go to the bank and they would give me a loan, a mortgage for the property at a higher valuation than the amount that I put into the property. That way, when I refinance it, I can pay the lender back and be in this deal for no money out of my pocket. Well, after I fixed up the property and I was trying to get that mortgage from the bank, they sent an appraiser out and it appraised for a lot less than I was expecting. So I was all in for $100,000. I was expecting it to appraise for at least $125,000, but it came in at $110,000. So the bank still made me keep 25% equity into the property, which means I had to come up with about $22,000 at closing. So I went from a deal that I thought was no money out of my pocket to having to come up with $22,000 in cash to close this deal. And this leads me to mistake number 4. So for this property that I'm talking about, what I call my failed BRRRR property, I had an issue with my contractor. The classic contractor story where the investor gets scammed kind of happened. Essentially, the full story though is when I bought the property, there was already a tenant in place. So I bought a property, tenant was in place, and right when I closed on it, I gave them a 30-day notice to move out. And even when I was under contract on the property, they were already notified that I was going to give them the notice. So they really had like 60 days to get out, but Anyways, I gave them the 30-day notice and they were like super hard to get a hold of. So I just figured, you know what? I won't have my contractors go in and bother them until after they move out. I was like, listen, it's only 30 days, not a big deal. Well, because of that, I wanted to get contractors in to give me estimates for fixing the property up, like as soon as the tenants moved out. And one of the mistakes on my part was I didn't plan out for the contractors to go give me estimates far enough in advance. Like I waited for some stupid reason. And what ended up happening is I only had one contractor who was able to go in moments notice to give me an estimate on the property. So he gave me the estimate and it sounded pretty reasonable. So I said, all right, let's do it. So I ended up just getting basically one quote and just hired the first guy that came. Well, what ended up happening from there was his work was really bad. He was very reasonably priced, but there was a reason why he was so low priced. It ended up taking way longer, costing way more money, and it was a complete nightmare. So my big lesson there was don't be cheap. You get what you pay for. So I'm trying to think there's probably more failures and mistakes I've made. And let me take that back. There's definitely more mistakes and failures I made. I would say these are the biggest ones from my journey. And I'm only 23 years old. I know that I'm going to be making more mistakes in the future. So just know that your success is not defined by not making any mistakes. They're kind of inevitable to happen. So don't let the fear of making a mistake hold you back from just getting started because, like I said, you're going to make mistakes. I want to make mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes, but just keep pushing forward. That's the biggest thing that I learned. So I hope you guys got value out of this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.